Welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Soundbites with Roko, Michelle, and our extra special guest, Margie Hagene. And so Margie is the elusive mentor that Roko and I keep talking about. And she consented to come join us on the podcast. I'm super excited. And I know that I have to find another word, but that just goes above excited. Maybe super. So anyway, our quote this week that we're kicking off with is one that Margie actually taught us when we were in A3 thinking class, the 2-day class that we're with. And it's from the mindset of a leader within the Toyota production system. It says, until I heard where your thinking was at, I didn't know what question you needed. And so this week's topic is on the power of questions, surprisingly enough. And when I think about it, for me, it's the shift from, it's not just questions, but it's what type of questions and what's your intent and mindset when you ask them. So are you asking them so that you can understand, so you can fix the problem or go do it yourself? Or are you coming from a place of curiosity and humility to actually understand the thinking of someone else? And so just a hint, the latter's the one. So anyway, I'm excited and I can't wait to learn more because I learn every time I'm in the room with you, Margie, virtual or otherwise. So thank you. So welcome. And what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? So I'm thinking that the first time I heard that quote, until I heard where your thinking was at, I didn't know what question you needed. It was one of my most important teachers in my work life, John Shook. And there's something about it that harkened me back to decades ago when I was in the College of Education. And I was taught my job is to create the conditions for learning. And I was also taught that the most powerful way to create the conditions for learning is to ask open-ended questions that result in learners needing to think. And when they think for themselves, they increase the likelihood of having deeper, lasting learning occur. So it was, I don't know, I guess a curiosity to me and have it offered in the way that John Shook offered it to me. And I would say that after many moons of working hard to create the conditions for learning, regardless of someone's age, I am still convinced that nothing is more important in going about that than offering a really well-considered question.
Yeah. I love the way that you phrase that instead of, because I was with a group of leaders today and in going through a coach approach and part of it is powerful questions or quotes that people say about the right question. I think Drucker has something around the right question. It can be freaking intimidating for people when they're looking for, because they substitute in their brains the word perfect, right? It has to be the perfect question. And so when you phrase it that way, a well-considered question, that means there's intention and thought behind it, but it's not the only question, the right question. And I think that's less intimidating. Roko, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll shift to another part of what Margie was saying that resonated with me, and it's that condition for learning. A lot of times, well, when we first learned about this quote, it was in the context of problem solving and how a leader can develop that problem solving capability in a learner. But over time, I've seen it be used in other settings as well, not just in that problem solving context. And so as leaders go out and go and see what's happening with their frontline staff, or whether they're in a problem solving team and they're trying to prompt the thinking of that team, or if they're even just in a one-on-one in catchball, I think having that frame of mind of my role is to create that condition for learning, and listening to what the learner is saying and being curious about how they came to that thinking is the power behind that questioning, behind that question.
I'm
So.
just going to add one point of clarification. The term catchball.
Oh yes, I
It's
used
not softball with gloves, right? but it is the back and forth exchanging of thoughts and ideas, and someone's thinking and the offering up of questions.
Yes.
To prompt thinking. Yeah. So in case
Thank you
it
for
does
that.
softball. So yeah, so it can be used there. It can be used there too when you're playing softball. So yeah.
So Margie, when you were teaching or mentoring Michelle and I, one of the things that we did was talk about the different types of questions, and you mentioned initially open-ended questions. Can you speak to a little bit more about the other types of questions that we're not necessarily referencing when we're talking about the power of questions?
Well, now you're putting me on the spot. So, it's hard for me to think of the other type of questions, because my habit is very, very deep from having been really intentional about it. I would say there are times when clarifying questions are helpful. There are times, many, many fewer times than we think, that a yes or no or either or question is helpful. Be mindful about those is typically when I'm asking someone yes or no, or either or, I'm asking them to, in some way, agree with my thinking, which is not truly a question that creates the opportunity for someone else to think. Don't you think we should, my idea, question mark? Have you spoken with fill in the blank person, the person I think you should talk with, question mark? And especially when you're my one-up or higher, it can feel, I can feel at risk if I don't agree with what you're saying, which is why the putting the intention towards and even stopping and saying, wait a minute, I want to ask a different question for you, is about being intentional and being the best you know how to be in the moment on behalf of the learning of someone else. And I want to tag on to what you said as well, Michelle, about the right question. You know, how I've come to think about it is, unless we're talking about the laws of physics, there aren't, to my way of thinking, a whole lot of things that are absolutes. So it may not be the right question, but it's the, based on what I heard you think aloud about, this is the question that is occurring to me to offer back to you at this moment.
And so people listening, watching, whatever, and if you're listening, I'm observing pauses, right? There's intentional thought pauses when even offering up a reflection or an opinion or an insight around what we're talking about. And that's when, Margie, you talk about the practice goes deep, right? I mean, this is just who you are. And I remember in the beginning, like with Roko and I, literally like rapid firing questions, boom, 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 boom. You know, the gun is fully loaded. I remember it was so difficult for me to, I'm going to say, perform by asking questions in the moment, because there's a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves because of the, you know, someone's listening, or I've got to have the right question or the perfect one. And I have to say, after teaching, you know, hundreds of leaders that went through the 2-day class, and Roko and I supporting people in coaching and all that, that I remember I had the opportunity at one point to step in and be a coach and a learner in one of the practice activities. And I remember stepping and doing it thinking, when did this happen? That this is no longer difficult. It's like it was just part of who I was. And I have to have with great intention stepping in to do it, because I can still slip into boom, 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 boom. This is what you need to do. But there's so much more value when I offer, to your point, a well-intentioned question, one thought out, that I'm coming from curiosity. You know, I'm really wanting to understand the thinking of someone else. And I'm also surfacing what I didn't hear. So I'm curious about that, right? Say more about this. What about X? And the benefit and the value that the other person gets out of it, that's the thing that fuels me up to keep going, to practice, so it becomes more natural, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You also mentioned this, you know, the hierarchy that exists sometimes with the learner and the coach, or that person who might be asking the questions, and how that can play into the response of that learner if they aren't thinking in the same way as the person who's asking the questions. And, you know, when we first get started, I think it's important for those coaches out there, or those leaders out there, to be cognizant of that, so that when they are asking it, they're thinking about their tone. I remember you teaching us about, you know, you can ask a open-ended question, but if your tone of voice was really like, you know, but you really need to be
a mandate.
you know, it's not going to land the same way as if you ask it with humility and from that curiosity space. So that was another thing that stood out as well.
We have a lot of standout moments.
We do.
We have a lot. I mean, I go back and I think it was, and I have to laugh about this, Margie, because like I said, there's two phrases that people now associate with me that are actually from Margie. And it's the question of what's a little bit better look like, right? So that, yes, we can try and boil the ocean or solve for world peace, but the reality of it is we're not going to be able to do that. So what's a little bit better look like to make some progress? And today's not the only day, which means, you know, pick what you have to do today and then deal with the rest of it tomorrow. And I say that because when Margie was developing Roko and I for this class to be able to teach, I remember looking at Roko, because Erica Lori was part of it too. And it was toward the end of our training. And I looked at her and looked at Roko and Erica, and I said, so it feels like today is the only day. I mean, things have ramped up to the feedback that we were getting. It's like, okay, so we've hit the limit. But I mean,
Margie, you know, all of our podcasts have been for the benefit of leaders, whether they're, you know, long-standing leaders or leaders that are just starting out. What advice would you give them as it relates to learning how to ask questions from this space?
A couple of thoughts occur to me. The first would be, if you start a question with what or how, you increase the likelihood of it really being open-ended. And if you are aware that you've started it another way, just say, I'm going to start over.
Mm-hmm.
And do it again.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it becomes deep habit is from the practice, whether it's music or golf or a foreign language or whatever. It's when we go at it again and again with intention that it starts to create those deep neural pathways for us. And I think another thing that is helpful for people to keep in mind is that a well-considered question is relatively short. You know, if you remember when we were in a room together and we'd actually record questions that were asked, a really well-considered question doesn't have to be more than 7 or 8 words in length. How did you learn about that? When did it first start to happen? Who have you spoken with so far? What else do you need to find out? What else is on your mind about this? If only one thing got better, what would it be? You know, it's not, you don't have to know a lot about the subject. In fact, more often than not, I know nothing about the subject. But if I listen to where their thinking is at, I have the opportunity to offer a question that will help them think even more deeply about it. And for them to own the thinking, not me to try to maneuver them to where I think they should be. It's just a genuinely open-ended question on their behalf.
And I think the thing that stands out that you just said is the ownership piece of it, because if it is our idea and we're not in service to them to prompt their thinking, ownership can shift to us as well. And it's not our thing to own. And
Right.
so that's the other part of it. It's like, you know, yeah, if you've got, to Roko's point and your point, this differential in, you know, hierarchy, and you do say, have you tried X? And they report to you, then you've just told them what to do. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And so, you know, and that's what I tell leaders, even though there's a question mark at the end of that, that is a freaking statement. And you have just told people to go off and do this thing. And immediately, if it doesn't work, they're not going to blame themselves because you just told them what to do. So it can shut down thinking when we go to close-ended questions, or to your point, my idea with a question mark. And so everything that you just said is powerful stuff for leaders to consider. And it is hard work.
It is. When we work inside of complex systems, we have typically been rewarded, promoted, acknowledged, whatever form of recognition is most meaningful for you, having the habits we have today.
Yep.
And if we have never ending, I mean, complex systems will always have problems. So if what we need is competent, capable, confident colleagues and employees to get after these, they have to believe that they can think their way through some of these for themselves, and how we create the condition for them to develop that competence and confidence is critical to them.
Agree. Roko, what's on your mind? You're just grinning. You're like,
I am.
What a good question. What's in your mind?
Well, let's ask another question of Margie then. What else is on your mind about the power of questions?
Hunted it back to Margie.
Yes, I know. That was very savvy, Roko.
I feel like we're doing tennis, and it's Margie on one side and Roko and I are on the other.
Yeah, I think what else is important, especially given the people who have come to watch your sessions and learn from, is that when we ask a yes/no question, or ask a leading question, or a closed-ended question, it typically isn't coming from a place of bad intent. What it's coming from is a lifelong habit. So I think it's important for people to not feel badly about themselves when they get some evidence about the frequency, and the frequency is humbling. Most of us, 90% of the time, we are asking questions that don't create the condition for learning. And it's because we just haven't had as much practice with it as possible. So what I would say is avoid beating yourself up for what is not as automatic for you, is not as deep of a habit, and a little bit better every day is how you get better at anything you decide is important to you.
I agree. I agree.
What?
Wait,
Wait, I have one more.
Hope so.
As she was saying that, as she was talking about it, one of the things that I remember when we were going through the program that would come up with the participants in the class is, I can't inquire to death. We were talking about this imbalance of building habits, and you have to have an imbalance to practice in order to build that habit. But then, some of the participants would push back and say, but there's this point where I know the person just really doesn't know anything more, and so I'd love for you to share what your thoughts are on that perspective of balancing building the habit with just knowing when not to inquire in that way and truly have a teaching moment.
Not to piss people off. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are times, if you're really putting intention towards balancing, advocating for your thinking versus inquiry and creating the condition for learning, there can come a point in time when you realize that someone is just stuck. And whether it's a 3-year-old, a 33-year-old, or a 63-year-old, ignoring when someone is stuck, it is just disrespectful. So what I came to learn how to do, both in the classroom and with adult learners, whether they're in a classroom or in the workplace going about the day, I label what I'm doing, and I'll say, I'm going to offer you a mini teach. And so I label what I'm doing. I keep it really, really short, like 2 minutes max. And then I label when I'm done. And then I say, so given what I just offered, what's one thing on your mind about this situation now? And I will tell you, I have yet to have someone not have at least one thought. And that's not, that one thought is from the College of Education as well. I'm not looking for the answer. When you offer someone, just give me one thought. Not the answer, not fix it. Just give me one thought that's on your mind right now. It's more engaging, and it's hard to be judged for one thought. I wasn't asked for an answer. I was asked for a thought.
Yeah. The thing that stands out for me in that what you said is it's not the leader or whoever's asking the question stepping in and taking over an ownership of what the thing is because someone is stuck or simply doesn't know.
Right.
But it's here's a seed that I'm going to put in. Now let's see what you do with that, right? Which is different because a lot of times people go, okay, you just don't know. Here, let me take it. And I'm going to go off and let me show you what to do about this, which is different. And I think that's the front end time commitment that we spend in developing people and helping people get unstuck through questions or anything else, versus consistently feeling like all roads lead to me. And I can't, basically I can't get out to go have dinner at night because everyone's coming to me. Well, there's a reason, because you are the answer person. So I appreciate that. And those are the things that stood out as you were talking. And it brings me back to time in the classroom with you, that I sorely miss. I mean, it was just, those are fun times. So what I'm hoping is that the people listening got some little taste of what Roko and I were blessed to have for months. I mean, months. Yes.
18 months.
Yes. And I mean, we were so freaking fortunate. And it was like we won the Margie lottery, we had a good time.
No, it was a privilege to be a learning partner with you. And it's striking to me that you're doing these sessions with intention every single week. I mean, that is highly impressive. And I'm trying to not have a goofy grin from ear to ear as I hear you.
We'll do it because we are.
I'm just delighted for you and what you're doing with what you learned.
Yeah, we love it. We just want a little bit better and the prompt thinking and, dialogue or whatever. And so we're having fun with it. Yeah. I so appreciate this time. So I'm going to go around and ask.
Wait, before you do that. So Margie, I know, I'm sorry, Michelle, I'm sorry.
Can't help it.
I just want Margie to be able to give a plug. I know we've never done this with any of our guests before, but
plug books and everything.
You have literally transformed Michelle and I's lives with the mentoring. How can people reach out to you to get the similar benefit? Because I know you're still facilitating and coaching and teaching out there. What's the best way if they wanted to reach out to you and say, how can you help me, or how can you help our organization?
You have my email address. So I don't know if I say that aloud now or if you just post it with your.
I will put it in the description of it. So is that the best way to get a hold of you, is the email?
I think so, yes.
Okay, you think so. We have to be certain. Yeah, I'm thinking so. So I will put Margie's contact information in. So thank you for the plug, Roko. And we do offer plugs for people. People that
I bet we wanted to share. You want to share, Margie?
No, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you paused me again. So are you good now?
I'm good. I'm good. Go ahead.
No, thank you. Thoroughly enjoyed the time today. All the starts and restarts that we've had at the end of it. And so, Margie, what's one thing? I know there's a lot that you can do that you'd like, and it can be two if you want, or you can hyphenate it if you're super chatty, that you want people to walk away with, just on the topic of the power of questions.
Intention. That's my one word. It's not even hyphenated.
Okay, no, it is one word, and that matters. That matters. So thank you. Yeah, be intentional about what it is. Roko, what's on your mind?
So mine is well considered question. I've always loved how you phrased that. Michelle reiterated it after you said it, and I'm going to say it again. Well considered, as opposed to right or wrong.
And that being said, that may be that's probably a good thing to make changes with leadership development engagements that I'm doing, is change that, because it's daunting and intimidating phrased another way. So yeah, I appreciate that. The one thing that I want people to walk away with is it's so funny, Margie, and until you, not funny, haha, but oh, I hope I don't cry. Until you, damn it. I did not have a mentor. Okay. And I felt like, and I self-nominated you as that. But it's powerful stuff. And there wasn't an arrangement or an agreement. It was a development thing, but you in my life is powerful. Damn it. So
that was more than one word, Michelle.
My one thing that I want to have people walk away with, encourage them, is be open to a mentor in your life that can have the influence on you, that you can go back later and say, look what I did. Yeah. Are you proud of me? Because that's what I feel like right now. It's like the kid with a parent or anything else, and it's the coolest damn thing.
It is.
Woo! So that's my one word.
Love it.
As always, I need to hold up the mirror and say, was that more than one word, Michelle?
Yes, there was a lot of them. There were a lot of words in that. So thank you for that. And you can't do it alone. And it's so valuable to have somebody else that's traveled the path that where you want to be and who you want to emulate, and behaviors that you align with and values that you align with, that you connect yourself some way, connect to them to where you can learn. That's my encouragement for people. So this has been Leadership Soundbites, the power of questions with Roko, Michele, and our super extra special guest, Margie Hagene, our mentor. Until next time, please like, share, subscribe. We'll put Margie's contact info in the message stuff so you can reach out to her and benefit like we have. And until next time, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.